All right, let's go. The Eagles took it to the Rams thanks to Saquon Barkley's historic performance. But what he's actually doing is literally transcending the sport. Plus, even though we already believe this, why do the national pundits also think he's the MVP? And then also, the Birds put the Lions on notice for more than a couple reasons. However, they will be without BG, who's out for season. So let's talk about that, the new pass rusher that Howie Roseman just signed, and everything else from Week 12 of the NFL. But first, let's run it. Alright, with Thanksgiving right around the corner, I want to start with giving a quick thanks to the New York Giants. You know, for the eventual league MVP who just gets better and better as the season goes along.
It's the gift that keeps on giving the whole year.
And a first down, and a ton more. Barkley, touchdown.
Barkley slips 2 tackles and picks up the first down, jumping up in the air.
And he's gonna go all the way. What a night, what a season, what a player.
I'm going to have a tough time sleeping if Saquon goes to Philadelphia, I'll tell you that.
I think it's safe to say John Mara's health is in serious jeopardy right now, especially considering how Saquon's playing. I mean, dude's not sleeping a wink. For real, it's like every week I come on here and say, I don't know how it could get any more unstoppable, and then it does. Like, think about this. The future All-Pro already has 80 more rushing yards than he ever did in New York. And oh, by the way, we still got 6 games remaining on the schedule. So in order to celebrate the lunacy of the Giants letting him go, I'm going to give away a signed Saquon helmet to 1 subscriber of the channel. Just do me a favor and drop a like and then make sure you hit the subscribe button. Because y'all already know this, y'all are the best, but as soon as the channel gets to 90,000 subscribers, I'm going to give that helmet away. Now, meanwhile in New York, they're dealing with an absolute dumpster fire thanks to Mara deciding to give GM Joe Schoen the say in letting 26 out of the building.
I don't know if I'll ever forgive myself.
We do not practice like we're 2-9, whatever our record is. Like, we're going out there like we are undefeated, and like every day is like a game. It just has to translate from practice to the field.
Malik, did you expect the quarterback change to provide more of a spark than it did? I mean, obviously it ain't the quarterback. Same outcome when we had DJ at quarterback. I mean, take a look. It ain't the quarterback.
Okay, clearly they have all sorts of issues, and that doesn't even take into account the fact that Daniel Jones was released, but again, clearly their loss was Philly's gain. Look, I know it's easy to get carried away with praise, but what Saquon's doing is unreal. And yeah, should no question be the NFL MVP favorite. Now, I will say the cool part is seeing that Superman went from 60-1 odds before the game in LA to now 6-1 odds. Which, I mean, honestly, the number shifts just speak for themselves, but the national pundits' reactions clearly show how the narrative is shifting.
MVP! MVP! Saquon MVP, baby!
He definitely ran himself smack dab into the MVP conversation. If he runs for over 2,100 yards and break Eric Dickerson's long-standing record, he absolutely deserves the MVP.
I mean, like every week, he is doing something new that is breaking records.
I'm officially the first things first Eagles guy.
Coming into the season, I said, can he plus up the Eagles in the same way that McCaffrey plussed up a championship quality team in the 49ers? And the answer is most assuredly yes. 302 total yards against the Rams. That's a single game franchise record. He's doing it all. 5 games with 140 or more rush yards and 1 or more rushing touchdown in 2024. That's the most in the National Football League. It's tied for the most such games through a player's first 11 games in NFL history. 4 of the previous 5 instances resulted in the player winning most valuable player.
Okay, I realize I might be biased, but I just don't see how Saquon does not end up winning MVP. Because it's one thing to have the type of game he did, but he did all that with LA lining up with 8 or more guys in the box 35% of the time. And make sure you hear me on this, when the Rams did stack the box with 8 or more, Saquon averaged 12.7 yards per carry.
No, that's impossible.
I can't blame you for thinking it. I mean, I'm serious. I thought that Saquon would be good, but never in a million years did I think he would be this good. Heck, he's just the second player since Sweetness in 1977 to have 500-plus scrimmage yards over a 2-game span. And absolutely, it kind of goes without saying if you're in the territory of Walter Payton. But again, what Saquon's doing is like playing Madden on rookie level, which is why I guess it shouldn't be a surprise that he's now the fastest player to 1,500 scrimmage yards, doing it in just 11 games. Plus, 26 now leads the NFL and runs over 30, 40, and 50 yards, as well as touchdowns over 50 yards. And oh yeah, if you take a look back at some of the most dominant seasons by running backs in the past, like 2012 for Adrian Peterson with the Vikings, or 1997 when Barry Sanders was extraordinarily untouchable, or even Eric Dickerson's 1984 season to set the NFL single-season rushing record, Saquon has more yards, more touchdowns, a better yards per carry average, and is drastically better in the receiving game too. Now sure, I get it, you get it, the NFL MVP award has definitely become a QB-driven type of award, but if it doesn't happen this season, it's not going to. However, even with all those records and crazy stats, the most impressive thing was seeing Saquon's attitude after breaking LaShawn McCoy's all-time Eagles record.
You broke the record. You broke Shady's record. Congratulations, sir. Hey, told you it was coming. I appreciate y'all.
To be honest, I'm not surprised. I didn't know, I would have this much success, and I could keep thinking that God's been blessing me a lot, a ton, to be honest. But I'm thankful to be here. I'm thankful for the fresh start. A big reason why I wanted to come here. Me and my family and my fiance, I've had a conversation with. I think this is a spot where I can, kind of rewrite my story and feel like I can show everyone the type of player that I feel like that I can be and was meant to be. It's working out right now.
He's a hell of a player, and I said that. I said that after the Jacksonville game, and how blessed he is to do some of the things he's capable of. And you accompany that. When you accompany an issue with other issues, you become a problem.
I said this after the game, but Saquon is literally transcending the sport and also, at the same time, making GMs reconsider the value that they place on running backs. Of course, when it comes to the Eagles offense, I got to give Jalen Hurts some credit too. Because for those saying QB1 couldn't or wouldn't ever throw over the middle of the field, Jalen was 10 for 11 for 97 yards passing between the numbers. And also when it comes to Jalen Hurts versus the blitz, he went 6 for 9 for 93 yards and a 100.7 rating. Now sure, if you want to be critical, there's nothing absolutely gaudy about those numbers, but he's doing exactly what he needs to help the team win. Heck, he's only turned the ball over once in the last 7 games. And say what you will about him, but he's shown progression in the passing game, isn't trying to do too much, and now he's completely healthy, so he's showing the running ability, which has paid huge dividends as well. Now, I'll give it to you, it was a little bit of a slow start, but even that's probably nitpicking, as the Rams started with the football and very quickly attacked the Birds' run defense to get down into the red zone. However, after Slay got injured, Isaiah Rodgers came in and absolutely is earning the Big Play Zay nickname, as he forced a fumble on Quinyon Williams and Nakobe Dean recovered it. And then this is where I don't fully understand the Jalen criticism, because just a couple plays later, Hurts made a ridiculous throw on the move to A.J. Brown for 19 yards, only to come back and hit A.J. for 17 to get the ball well into LA territory, followed by 6 straight runs that eventually led Philly to getting stopped and kicking a 21-yard field goal. Which on one hand, I get it. It's frustrating the fact that you don't get 7 points. However, it's also a little bit of a win considering that they didn't get too cute. They kept running the football in the red zone and, they did score in the first quarter. Plus, kudos to the Rams because it's not like you're going to win every drive, as Matthew Stafford started carving up the secondary a bit before getting to a 2nd and goal from the 7. Yet the next play, Slay was called for a pass interference, moving the ball to the 1. And, we can debate on whether or not that was a pass interference, but, there were definitely a lot worse missed calls in the game, which we'll definitely get into. Anyway, the score put the Rams in front 7-3 with a minute remaining in the first quarter. And that's when some Eagles fans got a little anxious and maybe overreacting with a Sean McVay is cooking Vic Fangio statement.
No, man. I believe you get your ass kicked saying something like that, man.
I get a little anxiety, but you think after what we've seen from Fangio this season, there'd be a little patience to go, okay, he's going to figure it out, we'll be okay. Although, for the record, McVay's offense didn't even see a 3rd down for the entire first quarter. That's how easy it was for them to move the football early on. In fact, the Rams racked up the most yards in the first quarter they had all season. Yet, like we've seen since the bye week, the old DC makes quick adjustments and then it's lights out. Seriously, the Birds shut down the high-flying Rams offense, holding them to 14 points, 222 yards, and 4.4 yards per play. Well, up until their last-minute meaningless drive, at least. And when you consider that LA had 123 yards and 7 points over their first 2 drives, but then only 122 yards and 7 points over the next 7 drives is absolutely insane. Remember, despite what all the haters and naysayers might want to tell you, this is a team that started out 1-4 but was 4-1 over the last 5 games. Plus, the Rams even took the Lions to OT this season in Detroit. Granted, they did still end up losing, but it was definitely a much closer contest. Anyway, like I was saying though, this is an entirely different squad from last season. Because after those 2 bigger drives from LA, the Eagles forced 3 straight 3-and-outs to close out the first half for a grand total of -6 yards allowed. And oh yeah, despite McVay saying he'd studied and prepared for the matchup and was ready for the challenge, every single 3rd down the Rams faced on Sunday night resulted in getting stopped.
I practiced them and now I don't look like I got practiced them.
In case you're curious, that was 0 for 8 on 3rd down for McVay's offense. Again, I don't have to tell you how impressive that is. But what Fangio's done is nothing short of a miracle. taking a bunch of new guys and a few holdovers from the NFL's 30th ranked defense and turning them into the best defense in football. Go figure, coaching and coordinators actually matter. Also, shout out to Jimmy Kimsky, but when you think about just how bad the Eagles have been against third downs, seeing them allow only a 20% conversion rate to opposing offenses over the last 4 weeks is just another case in point for how good the unit is. And sure, there's a lot of guys that deserve credit, but it's no coincidence that the Eagles are undefeated when Cooper DeJean's in the lineup.
This is how he wired him up, like a Philadelphia South Street soft pretzel right there. Completely had him tied up, wouldn't let him off the line of scrimmage on third down. You know what the Rams had to do? They had to punt. Then you get this right here. I mean, here's this other receiving sensation, Puka Nacua right here. And he's got him now in a trail technique. Watch how comfortable he is, just trailing Nacua right here. When he goes out, DeJean goes out and plays it blind and punches the ball out right there with another stop. And then you want to watch him just play right here. Watch him. He knows this is a boot drag. Look at his feet. He doesn't even move. Everybody else is moving on the field. He knows what's coming. So he's going to play this deep to short, right? All right. He knows that Stafford's looking right there. But when he dumps it off right here to Cooper Kupp, who's there to make the tackle? Does the guy miss a tackle? Because here he is down the goal line right now. You got to be stout in the goal line. This Kyron Williams got 8 rushing touchdowns. He's going to come right here and put his head right in the solar plexus of DeJean. He just stands up like a sumo wrestler and tapes him backwards. This Eagles defense, if there's one major improvement, that kid on the corner and DeJean in the slot made all the difference in the world.
It's honestly next level what Coop's doing. Like, having the level of play from the rookies is absurd, but seeing Coop practically erase Kupp let the rest of the league see just how much of a steal he was in the draft. Now, getting back to the game, the Eagles' offense got bailed out by Hurts on the next drive, as every so often we see just awful spacing in the receiving game. But like I said earlier, QB1 looks healthy and has been a difference maker when he's scrambled for yards. Unfortunately, though, another promising drive stalled out due to penalties, and then a Jake Elliott kick made it 7-6. By the way, kudos to Jake for being perfect on Sunday night. I know everything in pretty short range, but still, it was good to see him go 7 for 7 when considering his field goals and extra points. All right, next possession for the Rams ended very quickly, as a 3-and-out was courtesy of BG picking up a sack and moving into third place all-time in Eagles history. And not a surprise, but Mr. Eagle ended up as the highest-graded defender in Week 12 versus the Rams. Of course, sadly, BG tore his tricep and is out for season. We obviously went live whenever it happened to give our initial thoughts. But you know what? Prayers up for him. Hopefully a speedy recovery. This defense is going to be okay. I'm going to talk about it in a second, but also it sounds like Howie Roseman might have come up with his actual plan to replace, which again, I'll talk about in a second. But getting back to the defensive stop gave the ball back to the offense. And although it may have taken nearly 2 quarters, some Saquon contributions of runs and even a catch eventually set up a 6-yard touchdown from Hurts to AJ. Yes, technically, the pass was ruled incomplete at first, but upon further review, Swole Batman was actually able to get 3 steps in before having the ball knocked out. And look, that was huge because scoring right before the half ended, the momentum starting to build. Yes, I know Jalen doesn't necessarily believe in that, but still, you score, you get the ball to start the second half, you started to feel this thing maybe getting carried away. And yeah, even more so when Nakobe Dean came up with a sack to ensure LA didn't have a chance to get points before the half. Also, how great is it to have 2 really good linebackers? Because sometimes Dean gets a little bit overlooked with how good Baun's playing. However, with Baun kind of going unnoticed most of Sunday night, Dean was everywhere, as the 23-year-old had 8 tackles, a sack, 2 tackles for loss, a QB hit, and a fumble recovery. Of course, I can't forget Josh Sweat, who also picked up a sack on the final play of the half to stop any Hail Mary attempt. And for those counting, that was 3 sacks in the first half from the pass rush, which is really impressive for a quarterback like Stafford, because he only gets taken down on 5% of his dropbacks. And it was even more of a rarity recently since Stafford hadn't been sacked at all in 3 of his last 4 games entering the contest. So again, to the doubters, you can knock quarterbacks like Daniel Jones and Cooper Rush, but when it comes to dominating the likes of Joe Burrow and Matthew Stafford, there's definitely a legitimacy to the D-line. Now, having said that, and seeing the miserable finish to the first half, Sean McVay was hopeful to see things change in the second half.
We got to get a stop here, and then offensively, we got to get back to run the football like we did on our first 2 drives.
Their own 30 with Saquon Barkley as the running back.
He's walking right behind.
There he goes.
Oh,
I got to
there
interrupt
goes
you.
Saquon.
You said it, Chris. Big opening. Barkley let loose.
Let's go,
No
Saquon.
way. Touchdown.
I don't know of a more perfect timing for a run to absolutely break a team's will. Of course, the officials had to keep it close, as it felt like the game was already getting out of reach, especially with BG showing up again big in the run game, until the refs actually called a penalty on Isaiah Rodgers for a defensive pass interference, moving the ball to the 3-yard line. And look, I don't want to be that guy complaining about the refs, but for the life of me, I can't understand that PI call. Regardless, that's what happened, and LA scored to make it a 6-point game, yet, as we all know, it didn't matter. Because the Philly offense was locked in and Jalen was hitting a play action over the middle, followed by scrambling for 18 yards, hitting Saquon for a screen pass, and then Kenny Gainwell finishing off the drive for 13 yards and a score. There we go, how about Kenny G? And personally, my favorite part was seeing Saquon run down to celebrate with Kenny making it 27-14. Granted, give credit to LA because they tried to keep pace, except a potentially promising drive eventually got stopped by a Milton Williams sack. And then Josh Carty pushed his 47-yard field goal off the mark.
Just a bit outside.
I guess I see why McVay admitted to not trusting his kicker before the game, yet that feels somewhat counterintuitive for the confidence. But being up 13 with Saquon Barkley, and you knew it was a given they would start pounding the rock, especially when you've got a hybrid linebacker fullback extraordinaire in Ben Van Sumeren.
Benzin. Oh yeah, Ben. Oh yeah, Ben. Yeah. Yeah, Ben.
I'm telling you, I'm not going to get tired of saying it, but the vibe for this team, the chemistry, the morale, you love seeing that there. And yeah, you knew the Eagles would continue to move the football. Honestly, the only thing that kept slowing them down were the penalties. Although to get hit with an offsetting penalty for the world's softest unnecessary roughness call was such a Bush League call. I mean, seriously, how is that unnecessary roughness?
You can act like a man. What's the matter with you? Is this how you turn out a Hollywood Pinocchio that cries like a woman?
Sorry, I know I'm whining and complaining again, but the field goal attempt after that led to 30-14, Eagles absolutely dominating. Where on the next possession, Milton Williams came up with his second sack of the game. And dude was big time, especially seeing that Jalen Carter was getting double-teamed nearly every pass rushing snap. Yet even though some casuals want to knock the bread man since he didn't register a sack, we know better than that. And context is important. For example, the 33rd team gave some props to Rams center Bo Limmer for not allowing a single sack this season. Except the problem to that is when you're allowed to hold and get away with at least 4 other instances of this during the game, it's not quite as impressive as it sounds. Now, what is impressive is the fact that JC's been a monster for Fangio, playing 114 consecutive snaps over the past 2 games before finally getting a break late in the fourth quarter. Like, JC may not show up on the individual stat sheet every game, but he's obviously a vital part of Fangio's defense, holding opponents under 300 yards of total offense in 7 straight games. By the way, that's the longest streak since 2008, which was Jim Johnson's final season as the Eagles' DC. Oh yeah, just some more numbers for you. Over the course of this 7-game win streak, Philly's outgained opponents by over 1,200 yards. And on the next drive, Saquon picked up 72 of them.
Saquon's about to do something crazy this drive. Oh, what'd I say? Let's go! What did I say? Woo!
I'm telling you, the vibes of this squad are crazy high right now, which is no surprise to see Mekhi Becton tweet, "Man, playing football is actually fun again, and love this team." Because yeah, it is really special.
And I got to tell you, I'm waking up a convert. I think the Eagles might be the team to watch in the NFC.
Wow. All right, on one hand, I love to hear that because Philly gets the praise they're due. However, on the flip side of that, I kind of like flying under the radar. Either way, though, Sirianni delivered one of the best post-game reminders we've heard.
I want to keep it at this. Everybody watched that game. And everyone's calling you and telling you how fucking good you are. We have not done shit. Put your head down and work. It's the work that's got us here. You guys have been playing your ass off, and it's the work that's got us here. All right, let's pray.
Let's go. Keep that same energy because you can tell this group has something special and they could definitely get to where we want to go. By the way, real quickly, Q did not get mentioned because it wasn't the best game for him. However, it was not nearly as bad as you might expect, since the garbage time touchdown that Cooper Kupp scored on was actually credited to Sidney Brown's mistake and not Q's coverage, if you take PFF's grade. Although if you look at next-gen stats, then they say that Q had a much worse game and that it was actually his fault. So yeah, I mean, PFF is always the way to go. But like I said earlier, I've got to mention BG as well, with the GOAT announcing he's out for season with that torn tricep. And not gonna lie, but it'll be tough to replace his production because he was having an insane season. Also, for those wondering, BG actually said he's not sure about retirement and won't rule out a potential return next season. Regardless though, he did say that he's going to stick around, going to be a captain, be there for the players and everything else, so you'll definitely hear him and get all the hype on the sidelines. Now sure, I get some concern, but let's not forget that BG even told us during the offseason when we had him on that the young fellas are ready. And of course I'm always going to be positive, but let's have some faith in Nolan Smith and Jalyx Hunt to fill the void. At the same time, that's not to say there's not depth concerns, especially with Bryce Huff being out, as it brings up the question on if Howie Roseman should get additional help and who that could be. But thankfully, it appears that may have already happened. after NFL Insider Mike Garafolo reported that sources tell him the Eagles will be signing KJ Henry to the practice squad to add some pass rush help. Now, in case you're not as up on Henry, he's a 25-year-old who was selected in the 5th round of the 2023 draft by Washington, with a Clemson standout playing 282 snaps in 3 starts as a rookie while logging 19 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 2 pass deflections, and 1.5 sacks. And for the record, there was actually a lot of optimism coming away from this past preseason, as Henry had one of the highest grades before the season, posting an 82.9 PFF grade on 48 pass rush snaps while registering 10 pressures and 1 sack. Obviously, not ever bad to have over 20% in terms of a pass rush win rate too. However, that didn't exactly pan out, and you're right, to be able to go to Cincinnati, claimed there, bounced around a couple times on the practice squad, eventually waived, then Dallas claims him, doesn't stick for too long there also, and waived, not the best sign. Although technically he did get 1 sack in 40 snaps in Dallas, but was, like I said, once again waived. But here's what I'd say. He's shown some glimpses as a pass rusher to make some splash plays occasionally, has some athleticism, a little bit raw, and can get beat in the run game. So ultimately, it's a depth signing. I don't see him playing significant snaps, but when we talk about his team that has a very thin spot at the edge position there already, it's not the worst signing. Of course, the other guy to mention is someone who's already on the practice squad, and edge Tarron Jackson, who I'm sure we all remember as the Eagles' 6th-round pick in 2021, as he played in 21 games for the Eagles over 2 seasons and actually had a fairly decent preseason this year as well, but didn't make the roster. Although due to the recent depth issues, Philly decided to bring him back, and teammates have been raving about his moves on the scout team the last couple weeks. Or, I don't know, sometimes, things just work out perfectly, so could the speculation about Shaq Barrett make some sense? Which, in case you're not sure what I'm talking about, Adam Schefter broke the news that the former Pro Bowler has applied for reinstatement to play immediately and come out of retirement. And like Anthony DeBona said, this has Howie Roseman's fingerprints all over it. Like you're telling me Barrett is magically coming out of retirement right after the Birds lose BG to a season-ending injury? Now sure, there's other teams that could be in play for him, and I've seen some comments suggesting how Drew Rosenhaus, Shaq's agent, has disdain for Fangio based on his comments from Fangio's time in Miami, but let's be real, he just wants to get his client paid. However, if we're going back to Barrett's previous comments about what it would take to get him out of retirement, it doesn't necessarily sound as promising.
One scenario that might be able to bring me out of retirement, like a perfect scenario,
Whoa.
but I don't think it's going to happen, and I'm not expecting it to happen.
What's the perfect scenario?
I mean, if it happened, I'll let y'all know, but I don't want to put it out there. And because I'm really happy with my decision of not playing football no more. But yeah, it's one perfect scenario that could happen.
Like, okay, at least tell me this. What is it with a specific team, or is it just like any team that's 3 games from winning the Super Bowl? Like, what's it closer to? When you say perfect scenario, what is in your head? You don't have to tell me what it is, even though I wish you would.
Oh, it's just it's a location and a team. It ain't got nothing to do with winning the Super Bowl. Like, I was just like, yeah, location and team. It's just it's just one team that I come out of retirement for. Just one team. That's it.
Shaq, we can't go
on. It has
on.
nothing to do with Super Bowl.
Shaq, we can't go on. What does it have to do with you? Like, as a child, wanted to play for this team, or what?
All right, let me see. Give
us a riddle.
Geographically, locations where like I might have a home at, or I might had a home at, and it just.
Have you played for this team before?
Yes.
Shaq! Oh, this is we're returning to the Bucks or Tampa. No, sorry, we're returning to Tampa or Denver. You're not going back to Denver. You're going to Tampa. You're returning to Tampa.
So that narrowed the list down a lot. I'm not returning anywhere. I'm happily retired. But if
I know you're happily retired, but you
to happen,
Shaq.
Yeah.
You came on and you said I could still play though. I know what that means. That means the door's not shut.
Oh yeah, I still could. Yeah.
Well, I love that.
It's shut unless this perfect scenario happen. Like I won't do it for any other scenario, any other team, anything like that.
Yeah.
But I just have a lot of history. I got a lot of history down there, and then like all the stuff that happened with my daughter and stuff, how they came through for the family. Like I even when I was on my, like I had like 2 years left on my contract, I told my wife like Tampa, I'd do anything for that. I'd take pay cuts for time because of the way they showed up for my family and stuff like that. It just meant so much to me, and it was highly unexpected. So Tampa, they got special place in my heart.
Okay, yes, doesn't sound necessarily as likely, but you never know. So make sure to turn those notifications on because I'll be going live as soon as we get any official breaking news. Also, just one more thing to consider, even though Barrett is definitely probably one of the better options on the market, there's technically one minor thing to consider when you're talking about the Dolphins' contract. And that's the fact that Miami actually still holds rights to him. So would the Dolphins be willing to waive them so that he could go elsewhere even if he did want to go to Philly? Still, I know it's not perfect and nobody's going to replace BG 1-1, but what do you guys think? Do you like the signing that we made here? Do you want to go after someone else? And what's your level of concern for the pass rush? All right, as always, make sure to hit that like button. Obviously, subscribe as soon as the channel gets to 90,000 subscribers. Going to be giving away that Saquon Barkley helmet. And let me know your thoughts on the Eagles, the good, the bad, the ugly, everything else. Until next time, this has been the Philly Special.